I'd like to welcome you to the Monday, December 6th regular meeting of the Harnett County Board of Commissioners. And this time I would like to ask Vice Chairman Lou Weatherspoon to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Please rise and face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for our invocation. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, thanking you for the many blessings that you've given us individually and bestowed on Harnett County. Lord, we ask you to be with us as we go through this meeting today. Guide us, help us to do things in accordance to your will. Lord, we ask your blessings on our first responders, our law enforcement, and our military. We ask all these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Mr. Weatherspoon. Before we proceed with the agenda, I would just like to take a moment to recognize Miss Sarah Williamson and her honors civics class from Harnett Central High School who are with us this morning to observe the functions of local government. And Ms. Williamson, we're glad to have you and your students, and have any questions anywhere along the line or afterwards, please feel free to ask, and we'll certainly try to find an answer for you. All right, thank y'all for being here. Okay, at this time we'll consider any additions or deletions to the published agenda.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to revisit a motion that was made on June 21st, 2021. It was in regards to changing the chair positions to reflect the districts 1 through 5. If we could please add that.
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's put that under 5A. Let's make that 5A following the public comment period to revisit that. Thank you, Mr. Nickel. Any other additions or deletions anyone has? Okay, hearing none.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, have a motion to approve the amended agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. This time do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Nickel. Thank you, Commissioner Weatherspoon, for the second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we will enter a period of time for public comments. Just a few reminders before we begin. Our public comment period is limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. And if you wish to speak, you will have 3 minutes to make your comments. Ms. Capps will have a counter on the screen so you can gauge when to start wrapping up your comments should you need the whole 3 minutes. In addition, you may not speak more than once during the same public comment period, and you may not yield your time to another speaker. If you wish to speak, we would ask that you would come to the podium to address the board and begin your remarks by stating your name and residential address. We also ask that you maintain proper decorum, make your comments in a civil manner, and refrain from personal attacks or the use of obscene or profane language. And finally, as this is a public comment period, the board is here to listen. While board members can certainly respond or ask a question if they so desire, that will not be the norm as this time is set aside for comments and not discussion. At this time, we'll open the public comment period, and if you wish to speak, you may step to the podium.
Hi, my name is Linda Sunderman, 25 Spruce Lane, Lillington.
Good morning.
And my beef, should I say, is the Sheriff's Department and their communication with the community. They did away with their comments on the government page. When you go to the Sheriff's page on the media, there's nothing. You know, you can look at mugshots and things, but no media. They did away with that a few years ago, and they now have, for a few years now, is re-elect Wayne Coates as sheriff. And that's what they use to do their news releases to the news stations and to whoever. Now, if you're a bad person and you like were for John Livingston being murdered or the Bethea video or Christian Griggs, you are not allowed to join that group. They forbid you, you can't join. They don't let you. And so then you can't comment. You can see what's being said, but you cannot comment. I don't think as a taxpayer that's right. And personally, from looking at things, that's illegal. He is a paid county employee, and it should be that you can see it as a taxpayer, but it is illegal. And I think he needs to go back to using the county page and let everybody see what's happening. So that, and I did hear from somebody that was a speaker at my grandparents raising grandbabies group that they did this. Now, this was a few years ago because of people in those groups, which was me, so that they could control who sees the page, who can comment on the page, and this way they can control who joins and who comments. So I have heard from a top-ranking deputy employee that this is why they did that. But he didn't know he was talking to a John Livingston supporter at the time. But anyways, so thank you. If you could check that out, there's many of us on that blackball list. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Ronnie Kemp, and my address is 244 Chesley Lane in Lillington. As the director of a nonprofit dog rescue and regular volunteer at the shelter, I am here as a voice for the animals of this county. I've been attending these meetings for months, and there's a clear disconnect between many of you and the people and needs of our community. For years, Harnett County Animal Services has been overburdened and underfunded. Animals are suffering inexcusably because of substandard legal requirements and the pervasive attitude that their lives and well-being simply don't matter. As new residents move to our area, they come from places with higher standards, anti-tethering ordinances, subsidized spay and neuter programs, and well-funded shelters. I predict these residents will join me in no longer tolerating the status quo. They will not blindly drive by dogs on chains 24/7, freezing and left to starve. They will not accept that our crumbling shelter has no open space, or that our animal control department lacks the personnel and law enforcement support to investigate claims of neglect and abuse. They will definitely not tolerate euthanasia of healthy, adoptable animals. Today, our shelter is operating with a staff of nearly 1.5 employees. There are exactly 2 animal control officers trying to meet the ever-increasing demands of our large and growing county. This is both shameful and preventable. Before I continue, I would like to add that this deficit is in no way related to the work ethic or determination of the staff. Holly and her team have worked harder than most to bring about change. See, that's the thing. Most people think this is an animal services problem, but the truth is, Holly and Eileen before her, they actually wanted to make improvements. But without funding and county support, it's been impossible to do so. This is 100% a fiscal priority issue that lands squarely on this board. Putting it bluntly, you've handicapped animal services and at the expense of the animals. As details have emerged on how the $76 million of COVID relief funding will be spent, it is painfully obvious that not one penny is being appropriated to animal services. But more than $150,000 is being spent to renovate volleyball courts. Something is terribly wrong with these priorities. In case you haven't been to the animal shelter recently, which I highly recommend each of you take the time to do, there are a few areas that need immediate corrective action. The animal control ordinance needs major overhaul, starting with the addition of anti-chaining language and stricter protections for dogs left outside in extreme weather. Animal services needs additional staff and their wages increased. These jobs are difficult, risky, and require a great deal of skill that isn't being recognized. There's a critical need for a part-time veterinarian and administrative support staff to improve customer service. And finally, our forgotten shelter desperately needs rebuilding. If you would like an example of a county similar to Harnett that is riding ahead of the curve, you need not go far. Craven County is leading the way with strict anti-chaining laws, a joint task force that is prosecuting cruelty and neglect cases, and they have a welcoming, well-staffed shelter with a vet. These things are not unattainable to us. In closing, I strongly encourage citizens who are concerned about the welfare of animals in their neighborhoods not to simply overwhelm the shelter with calls that they don't have the resources to respond to, but to contact each of you instead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kemp. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing no one move, we will call this public, excuse me. Oh, you have one to read? Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Serrano, 197 Oxfordshire Drive. It's imperative that the board be organized with competent individuals that exude transparency and dedication to the people of Harnett County. With the recent developments in two of our towns which involved irregularities and lies, #LouNew, yes, not illegal, but nonetheless deceiving and scandalous, it is the right and responsibility of the community to do something about it. Growth and progress is natural, but at the pace that our sleepy, quiet towns are experiencing is outrage. Infrastructure, some of our neighborhoods do not even have county sewage or pedestrian sidewalks, but yet the clearing of trees for more and more housing is rampant. All of this at the expense of our environment and our quality of life. Bottom line, this needs to stop, and it stops with the involvement of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Capps. Appreciate you reading that into the record. So at this time, we'll call our public comment session to a close and move to the item that was added 5A. I'll turn the floor over to you, Mr. Nichol.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. On June 21st, 2021, I had made a motion in order to change the chair positions in order to reflect the districts in accordance to 1 through 5. After a couple of months and realizing that it's created a little turmoil here on the board, and I believe in unity of this board that we had about a year ago, that I would like to rescind my motion and have Ms. McCoy come back up on the dais and join us, please.
Okay, Mr. Nichols made a motion to rescind the action that was taken on June, what was that, Mr. Nichols?
21st.
June 21st to organize the seating of the Board of Commissioners by districts 1 through 5. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Weatherspoon. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Madam Clerk, at this time, we'll turn it over to you for the reorganization of the board, selection of chairman and vice chairman.
Okay. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 153A-39.3 and Rule 5 of the Rules of Procedures of the Board of Commissioners, I'd like to, at this time, take nominations for chair.
Madam Clerk, I would like to nominate for chair Commissioner Lou Weatherspoon. I think Mr. Weatherspoon has served well in his role as vice chair, been extremely loyal to me as chair. He works hard for the citizens of this county every day, and I would give him my highest endorsement.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, is there a motion to close the nominations?
Make a motion to close the nominations.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. At this time, I'd like to call for a vote on the nomination of Lou Weatherspoon being chair. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Any opposed? Okay, congratulations, Commissioner Weatherspoon. At this time, I'll take nominations for vice chair.
Madam Clerk, I would like to nominate Commissioner Matt Nichol to be the vice chair.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, is there a motion to close the nominations?
Madam Clerk, I'll make a motion to close the nominations for vice chair.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, at this time, I'll call for a vote on selection of vice chairman for Commissioner Nickel. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Congratulations, Commissioner Nickel,
Thank you.
on being selected as vice chair. At this time, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And thank you to my fellow commissioners that voted for me to be the chair. I look forward to another year, not only of hard work, but of moving the county forward. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Commissioner Matthews for his hard work, for everything he's done for the county this past 12 months. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Your work and your efforts have been greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
And your leadership has been invaluable. Thank you. All right. Ms. Honeycutt, would you like to do the presentation of the county's annual comprehensive financial report?
Yes, sir. Well, actually, I would like to introduce our auditor, just to bring you up to speed. Members of the local government, we're required to have an audit conducted each year by an independent outside auditor. And then that report is provided to the local government commission. And that financial report goes over and looks at our adherence to state statute, laws, regulations, accounting principles. And that document, once approved by the local government commission, is used when we go out for market. It is involved in our rating agency. That provides a lot of information about the financial stability and health of the county. And so each year, as part of our audit, we ask our auditor to come in and provide a report to you as the board. And I'd like to introduce Matt Braswell. He is a certified public accountant with Martin & Starnes, CPA firm out of Hickory. And so this is the first time in, I think, in 2 years. We had to do it both virtual last year. I think so anyway, thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Kimberly. Excuse me. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to take some time out of your meeting today. And like Kimberly said, your report, this is a snapshot in time. This is as of 6/30/2021, and to go over your resources, different things like that within the county. And this is, just want to take a second, this is a year-long everything to put this together, the volume of information that you have within the county, the various funds, the various services and activities that you provide. It is a joint effort between Kimberly and her staff and everyone that we work with. It is a pleasure to work with everyone in Harnett County, from DSS that we work with to Kimberly and her finance staff to every department that we work with. Very cooperative team, and we are very thankful for the relationship that we have with Harnett County. And just to kind of go over the highlights here, we issued an unmodified opinion, which that means it's a clean opinion. That means your financial statements are material in all respects in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. We had no findings or question costs, no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. Thank you, sir. That we discovered within your audit that we needed to disclose to the board. So overall, that is a very good report there, unmodified opinion with no findings or question calls or significant deficiencies. And fund balance here, we just want to touch base. I'm not going to go into the very fine details here, but you have 5 classifications in your fund balance within your general fund and various funds. Non-spendable, this is inventory and prepaids. You're restricted. This is an outside restriction, either by law, by grantors or laws or third-party restrictions. Committed, this is a internal commitment by you, the board, that does not expire at year end. Assigned, that is the lowest level of commitment or internal constraints, and then unassigned is everything that is left over with no outside restrictions. Total fund balance within the general fund. Total fund balance, you can see the 3-year period here from 19 to 21. Gradual increase there in fund balance to an increase in fund balance of about 15.8 in the general fund for fiscal year 2021. And we'll go over some of the causes of different things like that here in the next few slides. But overall, increase in your total fund balance in your general fund. And your fund balance position in your general fund, we want to compare your unassigned fund balance for fiscal year 2021 to 2020. So you can see your total fund balance of about 82.3 in the general fund. Take out your non-spendables, which is your inventory and prepaids, your stabilization by state statute. This is accounts receivable or money that you have not received in yet that is not available for appropriation. Committed fund balance, this is committed for various reasons such as debt service, various other commitments that you have as a board assigned. That is other restrictions there that you have put on funds that are going to be used for, say, subsequent years' expenditures, appropriated budget in the 2022 year, and the things of that nature. To come up with an unassigned, uncommitted fund balance in your general fund of roughly 37 million. And you can see the comparison there to 2020 of about 31.3. So about 5.8 increase in unassigned fund balance. And to look at your reserves on hand, as 8% is roughly 1 month's supply on hand, and so you want to take your unassigned fund balance as a percentage of your expenditures within your general fund. And you can see in the prior year it was around 24%. This year is about 28%. So an increase in your reserves on hand within a general fund of about 28%. And then you can see the general fund summary here for fiscal year 21 and 2020, and you can see increases within your revenues and increases within your expenses. And we'll go into the top 3 revenue sources and top 3 expenditure functions in the next few slides. But overall, revenues exceeded expenditures by about 18.5. Top revenue source for all local governments is property tax. You can see an increase of about 3.5 million or 5%. So growth within the county there of about 5% with your property tax to about 71 million roughly in total revenue source just from property tax. Other taxes and licenses, Harnett County was within sales tax, had a huge increase in sales tax this year. So other taxes and licenses increased roughly 6.2 million, and the majority of this is sales tax. We've seen growth across the state from anywhere from 8 to 12%. Harnett County was actually on the very high end there, so it was over 12% roughly there. But sales tax increased quite substantially for Harnett County, which is a good thing. Restricted and governmental. Now this is your federal and state grants. You will see a decrease here, but this is all due to timing, DSS type revenues, FEMA, CARES Act, different money within the federal government there that comes in and out. And so this is going to fluctuate from year to year. And so last year it would have been an increase from 20 to 21. So this is going to fluctuate from year to year. So overall, not any substantial changes. It's just timing of federal and grant revenue coming in and out. And in your top 3 expenditure functions, human services, increased there about 3%, but overall fairly comparable to the prior year. Just the increase in services there within Harnett County there, providing services related to human services. Ooh. Education, you will see here a decrease in the current year of about 1.9 or 7%. Now this is due to just capital outlay within your general fund for public schools, but this doesn't take into account all the capital projects that you're doing, building the various schools, different things like that. So this is just within the general fund there. So education overall about 26.8 in fiscal year 2021. Public safety is an increase from 2020 of about 1.2 or 3%, and this is mainly due to capital-related items such as in EMS and the sheriff department. Water and sewer fund ended the year very, very good. Unrestricted net position increased from roughly $60 million. Now, unrestricted net position, this is for, if you want to compare it to your general fund, it's unassigned fund balance or available fund balance. If you want to compare it to a governmental fund, so about 65 million unrestricted net position. So overall, water and sewer fund in very good shape. Cash flow from operations increased as well. And to put the debt service on there, you want to make sure that you definitely have well over what your debt service requirement is from cash flow from operations to be able to make that payment there. And so overall, very, very healthy water and sewer fund. Solid Waste Fund also had increases in all three areas there. Unrestricted net position went from about $2 million to about $4 million in the Solid Waste Fund. Cash flow from operations went from about $2 million to $2.9, and you can see it clearly covers its debt service for fiscal year 2021. And then you can see operating loss, income or loss. Water and sewer fund came in about 6.3 million. Solid waste about 2.2. So overall, a very healthy year for your business type funds there, or your enterprise funds. And I apologize for going a little long there, but any questions, comments, concerns that you would like me or Kimberly to discuss, or anything that you would like to, and I would say too, your report is probably 350, 360 pages. It's a very, very large report, and it takes Kimberly and her staff, my team as well, a lot of time to put it together and different things. If there's something, various things that you see in there that you would like further clarification, do not hesitate to reach out to me or Kimberly. But there is a section at the front that is called Management Discussion and Analysis that is put together by your team in the finance department that kind of goes over the highlights, or big changes, fluctuations there. I think it's about 10 pages, so that kind of gives you the whole snapshot of the year to give you your fund balance numbers and everything like that too. So, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Braswell. Thank you, Kimberly, for you and your department for all your hard work. Thank you for your hard work on part of you and your team.
Yes, sir.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments at this time?
I'd just like to thank Kimberly and your staff. Obviously, you've done an excellent job keeping us in line and helping us transverse this quite unusual year, but we certainly appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will also remind you that I gave you a small snapshot of just a snippet of the report itself. We will not actually publish that report or make it available online until it's reviewed and approved by local government commission. And so they are currently reviewing audits for the entire state. So that may take a little while, but usually they have a quick turnaround time. So, but we'll get that out and get it posted online just as soon as it's approved by the board. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Moving along, do we have any appointments today?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have one appointment for the Harnett County Planning Board. Ms. Teresa Ratcliffe would like to be reappointed to the board for that Harnett County Planning Board.
Right.
So I'd like to make that in the form of a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Ms. Teresa Ratcliffe to the Harnett County Planning Board.
Second.
All right. All right, we have a motion and a second. Thank you, Mr. Matthews and Mr. Nickel. Any questions or discussion about this appointment? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that reappointment is done. At this time, I will call on Mr. Royer to discuss the Billboard lease.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. I came to you all back in October regarding the lease of Billboard space that currently sits on Harnett Regional Water land right at North Main Street here in Lillington. Per statute, that requires a 30-day notice to be put in the paper to allow for a public hearing on any lease of government property. After posting that in the paper, the 30 days expired. Next regular meeting is today. So I'm asking that we open up the floor for a public hearing on the matter, and then I could return to discuss any questions that the board may have, if that's agreeable, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, at this time, I will open the public hearing concerning the county's lease of the described property to Interstate Outdoor Incorporated for a term of 10 years. This lease will, Interstate Outdoor will pay rent at the rate of $2,000 for years 1 through 5, and $2,200 per year for years 6 through 10. Anyone interested in speaking for or against this lease, please step forward, state your name and your address.
I wasn't planning on speaking. My name is Rebecca Fuller, 230 Morgan Farm Drive. Do you know what the current market for a billboard in our county is? If you were to shop it out with a private investor, it is $700 to $900 a month. Why are we giving this lease to this company for $2,000 a year? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Royster, would you like to address that?
I have Mr. Eddington here from Interstate Outdoor.
With Interstate.
Okay, fantastic. I'd like to step up and address that.
Hi, my name is Warren Stancil with Interstate Outdoor. We own probably about 50 billboards in Harnett County. I can tell you that I'm not getting anywhere close to $700 to $900 a month for any billboard I have in Harnett County. You know, what we propose is based on the revenue that we get from the sign. We've owned the sign for approximately 15 years, of which Bojangles and Cape Fear Hospital have been on it for. Bojangles has been on it since we bought it for 15 years, and then the hospital's been on it for about 4 or 5 years. And I mean, we get the same thing from them. We don't really go up on them. You know, I mean, we are proposing an increase from what we're currently paying, and then an increase in 5 years. Any questions, concerns, I'm happy to answer.
Anyone have any questions this time? Thank you. Anyone else care to speak? Please come forward.
My name is Margaret Morton, 86 Gwendolyn Way. So I have a question. How big is this billboard going to be?
So it's currently there. It's just renewing a lease on existing.
How big is it?
It's 10 foot by 24 foot.
So when we called around to find out how much it would cost to lease one of these boards, it's anywhere between $800 and $1,200 a month.
And I can promise you that we're not getting anywhere close to anything like that. You must have called a company called Lamar, which might be trying to get rates like that, but I've never heard of anybody, any sign in Harnett County for anything close to that.
I think you guys need to really find out for sure and call around, because $2,000 a year is pretty low ball. I think we can get more.
I'd like to make a comment. I've done some research on getting billboards, especially down on 87. And the last time I looked into it, it was about $1,200 for 6 months. So that kind of factors out right here, and that comes with one sign change, one laminate, and if I wanted to renew, it actually was going to drop down a little bit more than that.
Well, I guess location is key, so you might still want to shop around just a little bit.
Anyone else?
Good morning. I have just a fundamental question. Is an item like this, let me back up and say, in the spirit of transparency, is an item like this put out for bids, or is this just an automatic renewal? Just a question.
Part of what you have to do is you have to take contracts, vendors, property as you find them. We enter into leases in accordance with state law. State law requires that, if you have property, you're more than welcome to call up, and we get calls every day asking about property that's available. The obligation is to bring that somewhat completed and close to final package to the board, have that authorized for public notice, to result in a public hearing such as this if it's over the 1 year mark. So with regards to transparency, this is exactly what's required in state law. Most of my career has been dealing with public transparency, and this is nothing that I would say is out of the ordinary.
Okay, with that in mind, I am on the advisory board for the Robin Page Boys and Girls Club, and we have a billboard as you come over the bridge that is on the right. You've probably seen it. We paid substantially more than $2,000. Is this a year? $2,000 a year? Is that correct? I would ask that you table this until such time as I can discuss this matter with the advisory board. We would certainly like to consider publicizing this, the Robin Page Boys and Girls Club for this kind of savings. So I would ask that you table this.
I just want to be clear, this is for a ground lease. This is not for renting space on a billboard. The billboard is personal property of Interstate Outdoor. So this is just for the ground that literally the pole sits in, nothing more, and egress and ingress. So this is not for them to advertise on. This is their billboard. For whatever reason, this lease is not approved for the ground on which the billboard sits, current contract gives Interstate the right to remove their billboard, and then we revert back to land with nothing on it. So if there is no lease with Interstate, there is no billboard. I just want to make that clear that this is all this is for the ground lease.
And I'd like to make it clear that I understand that. There's still no reason in the world we can't use this for the benefit of the children and the advertisement of the Robin Page Club. And again, I would ask you to table this and let us pursue this for that purpose. Thank you.
If I could just quickly say, so this sign is under Lillington's ordinance. It's in their city limits, and so this billboard location has to comply with Lillington's ordinance. It is non-conforming, so if it comes down, you cannot put another one back up unless Lillington were to change their ordinance. Also, standard revenue that we pay for ground leases is 15 to 20% of the revenue that we receive on the sign, and that's what we proposed here. So,
What do you charge to advertise on your billboard?
I think we get $400 for one side and $600 for the other side.
Excuse me.
Yes, Commissioner McCoy.
Is this for a year? You get $400 for a year?
It's per month.
Per month.
Yes, ma'am. You know, so also we have to pay utility bills, commissions. We have to pay expenses for the sign. You know, this is guaranteed revenue to the county whether or not the sign is rented.
Thanks, sir. So that works out to about $4,800 to $7,200 annually to advertise on that. Anyone else? Seeing no one move forward, I will close the public hearing and ask the board if they have any further questions or comments of Mr. Royster or the billboard owner. Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Chairman Witherspoon, I'll make a motion that we approve the ground lease for the billboard in question.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Thank you, Mr. Nickel. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, moving to item 10. Consider and approve a resolution to support to create and join a new local workforce development area. Mr. Price?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, board members. Hope everybody's doing well. So over the past year, a lot of time, energy, and effort has taken place with workforce development here in Harnett County. Great relationship with Triangle South and Central Carolina. We've also been working with Mid-Carolina Council of Government. So if you'll allow me to do two things. One, I'd like to present to you a resolution of intent first, and then I would like to summarize kind of where we've been over the past year. And I've got Justin Hembry, the Executive Director of Mid-Carolina Council of Government, here with us today, and also Danny Giddens, who's the Interim Director for Triangle South. I appreciate both of them being here. So if you'll allow me first to go over the resolution of intent. This is a resolution of support to create and join a new local workforce development area. Right now, the counties of Chatham, Harnett, Lee, and Sampson jointly cooperate to provide workforce development through Triangle South Workforce Development Area Workforce Development Board, which is an umbrella of Central Carolina Community College. Currently, Central Carolina Community College is the grant administrator for Triangle South. So basically what we were looking at here is based on many discussions with Central Carolina and with Mid-Carolina, Harnett County desires Mid-Carolina Regional Council to become the grant administrator for Mid-Carolina Workforce Area Workforce Development Board. So there's three things that we kind of want to accomplish through this resolution. Number one, Harnett County desires to be a member of Mid-Carolina Workforce Development Area Workforce Development Board. Number two, Harnett County desires that Mid-Carolina Regional Council be the grant administrator for Mid-Carolina Workforce Development Board. And three, Harnett will work cooperatively with Cumberland, Sampson, Central Carolina Community College, Mid-Carolina Regional Council to ensure a smooth transition for workforce development services and administration from Triangle South Workforce Development to Mid-Carolina Workforce Development. So basically, over the past year, I've been working strong with Justin, and Cumberland County joined Mid-Carolina, was it April of last year? June of last year. So we were kind of watching that, and we were a member of Mid-Carolina many, many years ago. And first of all, I'd like to say I'd like to thank Central Carolina for coming in and supporting and helping us and all the work that they have done for us for workforce development. I also have our director, Charlotte Leach, is here with us this morning as well. I forgot to point out. So anyway, so this is a resolution of intent. So there's a lot that has to happen over the next 3 to 6 months in order for this to take place. We all feel that this is the best transition for Harnett County. Mr. Wood and I have met with Central Carolina. We met with the President, Dr. Chapman, and Provost John Matthews, and with Danny Giddens, the interim director. We had a very good meeting there. The transition we all were in agreement with. I've had numerous conversations and meetings with Justin Hembry with Mid-Carolina. He is all on board with moving forward to bring Harnett in under his umbrella as well. I would like to ask Justin, if he doesn't mind, just to come up and just maybe explain, this is a resolution of intent, but just explain the next 3 to 6 months about what you see happening through Mid-Carolina and Harnett possibly coming under your umbrella.
Sure. Thank you, Colin. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
As Mr. Price mentioned, Cumberland County made the decision. It's probably been, looking back on it, a little bit over a year ago to begin the process of transitioning their workforce development function to the regional council. And as some background, Cumberland County is one of the few, I think there's 4 others in the state that are single county workforce development boards or workforce development areas. Over the years, and Danny can certainly speak to this with his background, the state has really encouraged local areas to consider either consolidation or the formation of new areas to decrease the number of administrative entities for workforce on the local level. And there's several factors for that, but the primary one being that the less number of administrative levels at the regional level or the local level there are more funds that can go to direct services for workforce as opposed to administration. So some background with that, and as we began the transition with Cumberland County's workforce program, coming over from being a county department to a department in the regional council, one of the things that I mentioned to our board of directors was that this would provide the opportunity for us to grow capacity at the regional council, for us to begin being in the position to offer workforce services on the regional level. And that's one of the things that we've worked really hard with. And this has sort of come to fruition over the past several months. As Coley mentioned, there's been several conversations. First conversations were actually with Sampson County. And Sampson County showed an interest in making a change and trying to form a new workforce region, and that progressed into conversations with Harnett County. So just to summarize kind of what the next steps would be if the board is agreeable to this. Number one, and I have to be careful when I talk about this, this is not a consolidation. This is a formation of a brand new workforce area that would include Harnett, Sampson, and Cumberland County. So it doesn't need to be looked at from the standpoint of y'all would be merging into an already existing Cumberland County workforce program. This would actually be the formation of a brand new region. So what would need to happen with that is, number one, the first step is today, with the board indicating the intent that they support the concept of moving forward with forming a new region. The second step would be a buy-off from the folks at the state level, Department of Commerce, Division of Workforce Solutions, to say, yes, this makes sense. We want to support this moving forward, help with getting the infrastructure in place to make this happen. And then between that time and June 1st of 2022, when this would formally become effective, there would need to be what's often referred to as a consortium agreement, negotiated and entered into between the three boards of county commissioners, Sampson, Harnett, and Cumberland County. That would lay out what the governing structure would be like for the Workforce Development Board. It would set up a rotation or identification of what we call CLEOs, or chief local elected officials. There's one local elected official. It's normally one of the chairmen of the boards of one of the three boards of commissioners that oversees the workforce program from the elected official standpoint. So there would be, between now and then, those formalities that would go through in terms of set up the structure, but there would also be a lot of work that would be going on internally and cooperatively between us at Mid-Carolina, at Central Community College, to set up the budget structure, the staffing structure, how this is going to work. Right now, just in full disclosure, we are advertising for a director of talent and workforce development. I've been wearing that hat as the interim director for Cumberland County. So we're moving forward with that so that we've got someone in to help lead a portion of this transition going forward. So I'm sort of rambling here, but the next steps would be the formalities of actually forming that consortium agreement and determining what the local board would look like, the local area would look like. But we think this is an exciting opportunity, obviously for the council as we move forward rebuilding, but I think also for our region, because most people realize workforce is not a single county issue anymore. Our employers are regionally based, therefore they look for employees across county boundaries, and I think that this would help facilitate more of that cooperation. So.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond.
Are there any questions at all for Justin or Danny or myself or Charlotte as far as the workforce is concerned? So what I'm asking today is just a resolution to move forward with the process.
Mr. Chairman, anyone have any questions?
I'd just like to add that I appreciate all the work Coley's done on this. We've probably been doing this for about 4 months, I think. He and I decided early on that what we ought to do is let Cumberland County go through this first, and let's go to school on them. And so we've done that, and that's part of the reason why we've waited. So we're roughly 6 months behind Cumberland on doing this. Coley and I both talked to County Manager Amy Cannon and also the Assistant County Manager Tracy Jackson. Tracy's been the one heading it up internally for the county. And they were both very high on it. They've been very pleased with the transition period and the services that they've gotten from the COG. And of course, they're looking forward to them having the full-time staff member as well. So I just wanted to pass that on to you. The other thing I wanted to pass on to you, as Coley alluded to, we did go see the president of our community college and the provost, both of whom were in favor of us making this transition. So I don't want to leave you with the impression that there might be some ill will there if we were to make this transition. They, in fact, are in favor of doing that. And so we feel like everybody is in agreement that this is the right move going forward. So I just wanted to make those additional comments.
Good point. And in no way, shape, or form, the relationship we have with Central Carolina with specialized training for workforce development when new employment comes in, that will continue. We have a strong relationship, and thank you for bringing that point up. We feel this is a win-win for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. All right. Any questions or comments from the board? If not, what's the pleasure of the board concerning the resolution of support to create and join a new local workforce development area?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I recommend that we go with the recommendation.
All right.
New Carolina.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Price. Thank you, Mr. Henry.
Thanks. If I may, real quick, just so you all know the next steps with this, and I did forget to mention this, I'm meeting with Sampson County's Board of Commissioners tonight. We anticipate that they're going to be adopting the same resolution. I'm meeting with the county commissioners in Cumberland County during their work session on Thursday, and we expect for them to take action next Monday during the regular meeting. And if I may, I've taken too much of your time. I just want to make a real quick introduction. Ms. Samantha Woolenweber is our new Director of Local Government Services. Friday was her first day, but as her first official act, I decided I wanted to bring her to Harnett County's Board of Commissioners meeting. Y'all probably know Samantha. She's from Harnett County, and we're glad to have her on board.
Welcome, Samantha. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda, it looks like Mr. Price, you and Mr. Wood are up.
Okay. If you want me to, I'll kick it off.
You go ahead.
Okay. So, first of all, let me say thanks to each of you for the efforts that you have put forth with economic development as far as where we stand, what's going on in our growing county. I think we all are in agreement that Edgerton Industrial Park is our low-hanging fruit as far as the location, the proximity to I-95. I know we've talked immensely about putting shell buildings on the ground. What size do we put it? Do we go public, private? Do we do a combination? What do we go after? What kind of square footage are we looking? So we've talked about that the last few months. And so now a lot of good things are happening on the economic development forefront. So I have two proposals here for you this morning. Both are from Sanford Holzhauser. We're dealing with Ernie Pearson and Rocky Lane. I've built a great relationship with them in the past as far as moving forward. And so the first one is engaging Sanford Holzhauser to undertake an economic and fiscal impact analysis. And what this is it would be jobs and capital investments as a result of the build out of Edgerton Industrial Park. Sanford Holzhauser would partner with Dr. Henry Lowenstein, who would make conservative estimates as to what might be located in those facilities in terms of the level of number of jobs, the creation and wage levels of those jobs based on customary industry standards, and result in the estimation of economic and fiscal impacts which would be conservative and supportable. So a little bit about Dr. Lowenstein. He's a seasoned economist. He has a broad background in business, academic, government, and public service organizations, and has done extensive work for a number of public and private industries. Using a proprietary economic and fiscal impact model, Dr. Lowenstein will analyze all aspects of the build-out of Edgerton Industrial Park and will provide data on the following. Estimated ad valorem tax figures for lots 4 and 5, which you also have another proposal that I'll get to in a minute as part of this that would include all the lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It would look at an economic impact of the estimated construction cost of the completed facilities as shown on the Samet conceptual layout that many of you have seen. Also an economic impact estimate once the facilities are completed and operational, and an estimated per capita fiscal impact based on the employment in these facilities. So Sanford Holzhauser would manage the entire project and work with Dr. Lowenstein to gather all pertinent information and data. The report would address each of the estimates noted above, and both fiscal and economic impact estimates will show on an annual and projected 5-year total, with the exception of ad valorem taxes, which would be a projected 10-year total. So as deliverables, Sanford Holzhauser will provide an integrated final report that quantifies the economic and fiscal impact of the build-out of Edgerton Industrial Park. So you have 2 fees here. One is for lots 4 and 5, which was $11,000, and then just for 500 more for $11,500, they would do all 6. Mr. Wood and I have talked about this extensively. We are comfortable with the proposal, and we recommend that you go with all the lots 1 through 6 at 11.5. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that's clear. For $500 more, we get 4 additional lots. So there's no reason not to go ahead and include those in, and then we have an analysis of the entire park.
Seems to make sense to me. Any comments or questions from any of the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say that due to the economic and physical impact study in that area, and it being such a growing area with potential that's got, I would recommend we go ahead with this, approve this proposal.
Got a motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Matthews and Commissioner Johnson. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor with proceeding with this proposal, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead again. All right. So the second one is another proposal from Sanford Holzhauser, Economic Development Consultants. Okay, so what this is to recertify Edgerton Industrial Park. Okay, so what does that mean? So there's 2 proposals in here. One would be through Department of Commerce and Economic Development Partnership in North Carolina, and the other one would be through Sanford Holzhauser EDC branded certification program. So what's the difference? The difference is kind of laid out on your option A. If you look in your packet, it's got about 31 areas that they look at to certify, ranging anywhere from boundary maps to wetland determination, environmental phase 1, 100-year floodplains, about natural gas, water and sewer, wastewater, rail, telecommunications. That list goes on and on. That is very big when you are certifying a site such as Edgerton. So that goes on the website, it goes to EDPNC, it goes to Commerce. So once they see that is certified, all that is checked off. The second one is a little lesser degree as far as what Sanford Holzhauser would do, and it's not at the level of the state, and it's still good, but it's about 21 areas of what they go through as far as option B. Again, Mr. Wood and I have looked at this quite a bit, and we feel that at this time, as far as the location, what's happening with the growth in and around our area, to move forward with option A and get the state certification recertified.
I'd just like to add that being on the state certification, then we'd be on the North Carolina Partnerships website. And as y'all probably know, most of the leads we get in economic development come from the Department of Commerce. And so we want to go with certification that meets their criteria. There is one item we want to make you aware of. I think most of you are already. We would go ahead and do all of this work but we could not submit for the recertification until Dunn comes out of their sewer moratorium. But there's no reason to waste time waiting until they come out. We want to go ahead and have all of the work done. And as you can see, there's a lot of documentation that goes into this. So we're asking you to move forward with it. Let us get the documentation ready. The only thing we'd be lacking is number 21, a letter from wastewater service provider, because they couldn't make that commitment being under a moratorium. But we've had extensive talks with the mayor and the city manager in Dunn. Chairman Matthews went with us to have that meeting. They are well underway with the 3 different projects they've got to do to come out of that. They've already come up with the funding. They've already bid the projects out. So they are underway. This is not something that we're waiting for them to move forward on. All of those projects are underway. And again, they are funded. So we're convinced they're going to do what is necessary to come out of it. On top of that, they were awarded $30 million in the state's budget that passed last week, specifically for water and sewer. So whatever else they might encounter over there, money is not going to be a problem in getting this sewer system fixed. And the basic problem with their sewer system is not with the plant per se, but it's I&I. And for those who are not familiar with sewer and the jargon, that is infiltration and inflow. That has to do with leakage of water coming into the lines. And so particularly when we get heavy rains, they exceed their NPDES permit from the state, and they're in violation of that permit. So that's why they've had to enter a special order by consent to go into the moratorium. But again, we think roughly within 9 months to a year, they'll be coming out of that, and it'll take us a while to move forward with everything we want to do, not the least of which is making a decision going forward about how to proceed with the spec building and then move on it. The reason that we're starting with this one instead of the other 2 industrial parks is our assessment is, and I believe Ernie concurs in this, that given the proximity to the interstate, and particularly this is right about 1 mile off of an interchange on the interstate, this gives us the best proximity to a major artery, and therefore is the best location, we think. The issue has always been the utilities. So again, not to belabor the point, but we have confidence in Dunn that they're going to move forward and get their problem fixed. Secondly, they have a gun to their head from the state, so they're going to get it fixed because otherwise they're going to be fined severely for that. So that's where we're at. We want to have everything ready. And then once they come out of the moratorium, we'll be able to get their letter for number 29 and number 28 for the water, and then be able to submit this application and get this property recertified.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Any additional questions or comments for either Mr. Price or Mr. Wood? Do I hear a motion concerning these 2 options?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion in this matter to approve proposal from Sanford Holzhauser regarding recertification of Edgerton Industrial Park due to the proximity of Interstate 95 and 40, due to the possible drawing of industry and commercial growth in that area.
Second.
Mr. Johnson, is your motion to consider option A or option B?
Option A.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Do you want to amend your motion to state option A?
Yes, I'll amend my motion to state option A as my recommendation.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Commissioner Matthews?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, any further comments or questions? If not, all in favor of approving the resolution for option A, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried, Madam Clerk. Thank you. All right, Mr. Price,
Okay.
lucky number
Yeah, up
13.
again, that's right.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for that. And second of all, a lot of good things happen around our Jetport as well. So a lot of great planning, the funding coming down from the state for our terminal. The lighting project is finishing up. So there's 4 items I'd like to talk about this morning. If you'll recall, a few weeks ago, you voted to have 2 engineers on record for the Jetport. One being existing engineer was Talbot and Bright, and then the new engineer of record coming on board was Parrish and Partners. So what we would like to do today is bring you recommendations from the airport committee, which met in a special meeting on November 17th that Chairman Weatherspoon and Commissioner Nickel attended. Very good meeting, very good discussion. I think it's going to clarify from this point forward about who does what. So if you'll allow me to go through that, and then I'll be glad to answer any questions. So coming out of that meeting, recommendation from the Jetport Committee is number 1, the apron project. The Jetport Committee recommends Talbot and Bright proceed with completion of the airport apron project through bidding, construction administration, and inspections. So if you'll recall, we did that in phases to kind of help the pilots and kind of help the folks coming in and out. That would accommodate that as far as the construction and not have to shut down certain sections of the airport. So that's item number 1. Item number 2, the Jetport Committee recommends Talbot and Bright terminate further work on the airport master plan and provide all documentation to the other engineer of record, which is Parrish and Partners, to complete this project. As part of this master plan, Parrish and Partners will assist the county with determining the exact location of around 25 to 50 acres of adjoining property for construction of hangars. The Jetport Committee recommends that Talbot and Bright provide their schematic designs for this. I have already been in touch with Parrish and Partners. I have a meeting set up with them, I believe next week, to kind of orientate them with the area. I'm going to actually show them the area as far as economic development as well as the Jetport and moving forward with that. So that's item number 2. Item number 3, the Jetport Committee recommends Talbot and Bright finish the airport terminal design plans, specifications, and bid documents, incorporating the previously discussed removal of the outside spiral staircase. The Jetport Committee recommends the Board of Commissioners forego getting a professional construction estimator's opinion and instead move to bidding. What we talked about there was the spiral staircase looked really pretty, but it was didn't really serve the purpose. And they did not want people coming up onto the balcony unannounced or trying to get into the building, which makes a lot of sense. So then foregoing the estimator's opinion, now that we have found out that we will receive funding from the General Assembly, we're ready to move forward with this. So we were just asking them to not do that. And then item 4, Talbot and Bright will be responsible for bidding, contract administration, and inspections for the Jetport Terminal project. However, the Jetport Committee would like to recommend that Parrish and Partners be hired by Harnett County as a separate third-party inspector for the Jetport Terminal project. Parrish and Partners will provide inspections reports directly to the county manager's office. The county also intends to have our Director of Capital Projects and Renovations, Chris Johnson, also perform inspections. And we did that in-house with this particular building as well as far as the Library and Resource Center, and that seemed to work out well. So in summary, they would like Talbot and Bright to go from start to finish with contract administrations, bidding, and inspections, but then hire Parrish as a third party only that reports directly back to the county manager's office. Mr. Chairman, that is the recommendation of the Jetport Committee, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
If I can make one comment here under item 2, I think the recommendation from the Jetport Committee also was that Parrish and Partners begin immediately on completing the AOP. That I know that's part of the master plan, but we want that completed before they move further with the master plan.
Okay.
If we could make that change.
Yeah, that's correct. That was an oversight on our part.
Yeah, you're correct.
What we're doing here is they're going to take over the master plan, but as the chairman indicated, one of the components of that is the airport layout plan. And so we do need to instruct them to do that first so that we have that plan taken care of.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make one clarification as well.
Yes, sir.
When you do a construction project, you've got one representative that is your representative, and they're your agent on that project. And so where we're hiring two architectural or engineering firms, we've got to be very clear about who does the contractor work with directly. And in this case, that will be Talbot and Bright, but actually it will be their architect who is under contract to them, not the county. So we want to make those clear lines of demarcation there. And so we're making it clear to parish and partners. That's why they will report their findings to my office. And then we will forward those to Talbot and Bright and the architect to incorporate, and then they'll follow up on it and see if it's something that should be addressed. The same thing with our Director of Capital Projects and Renovations, Chris Johnson. Chris will go out and make inspections as well, but he cannot give any instructions to the contractor. He has to go back through Talbot and Bright and the architect there. And the reason for that is you've got to have clear lines of authority, because if you don't, the contractor can try to play one off against the other and say, well, he told me I could proceed on with this change order, or he said this and she said that. And the bottom line is we want one point of contact, one person that authorizes any field things. Now, typically on the smaller change orders, I can approve those because they need to be done fairly quickly. And so I'm your agent for making those. If it's a major change, then we come back to you for a vote on those, whether or not time sensitive. But all of that gives you very clear lines of authority about who's making the decisions on any fluctuation from the plans as bid on. And so we think even though incorporating all of these different inspectors, that we've still accomplished that. And I wanted that to be very clear that y'all understood we're maintaining that chain of command there.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Any additional comments or questions? Do I hear a motion to approve this recommendation from the Jetport Advisory Committee?
Chairman Witherspoon, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Jetport Committee with regard to the outlined areas of responsibility as presented by Mr. Price and Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Commissioner Matthews. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner McCoy. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Mr. Price. All right, Mr. Wood, County Manager's Report.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple of things. The first one is I think we're pretty close on hiring both the Economic Development Director and also the County Manager. So for the public, we should be having an announcement shortly on both of those. The one other thing I did want to mention to you is in the past, y'all have typically approved your capital improvements program in January. And what I'm going to recommend to you, and sometimes we've presented it in December and then you approved it in January. I'm going to recommend that you hold off on the presentation until January. And the reason for that is we anticipate, if all goes well, your new manager will be in this chair instead of me in January. And I think that would be the best thing going forward, because then the person who's going to do your operating budget would have had time to review what we're looking at on the CIP. And if he or she wants to make any adjustments to that before you get it, they would have time to do that. And so that's going to be our recommendation. We actually have a draft of it already, but rather than bring it forward to you now, I'd like to wait on that if you're in agreement with that, and allow your new county manager to look at it. I can tell you, if I were coming into this job as your new manager, I would want that courtesy.
Is everybody in agreement with holding off on the CIP presentation?
So we will incorporate it into your annual retreat, which is done in late January.
All right. Good.
And that's all I've got.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wood. Any new business to come before this board? Do we have a need for a closed session? Yes, we do.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board go into closed session for the following purposes: to discuss and deal with certain personnel matters made pursuant to the North Carolina General Statute Section 143-318.11A6.
All right, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are now in closed session. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Call the meeting back to order in open session. I believe we have an amendment to the original motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend the motion going into closed session to read, to discuss and deal with certain personnel matters and to include acquisition of real property.
A second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Any further business to come before us today? If not, I declare us in recess until December the 7th, 2021 at 12 p.m. in the Harnett County Resource Center and Library Building, Training Room 103A. We're recessed.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. It's the meeting with the legislative.
The water.
On the water and sewer.